I would like to invite my panelists up. I have 3 fantastic panelists, and I will ask them to come sit with me here. First, Dr. Hamad Abuhaimed, and Rosanna Chopra, and Ingo Schweder. If you'll come up, and I'm going to have you sit here, Dr. Hamad. And Rosanna, you're going to be in the middle of the 2 gentlemen, and Ingo, you're over there. So thank you. Great. Well, this session is called Wellness on the Edge of Structural Transformation. And the question is, will it be led by the kingdom? So when I had gotten this title, I thought, well, I'm going to look up what structural transformation is. And what it talked about is looking at a shifting composition of an economy from one thing to another. And so, for example, shifting from a economy dominated by oil to dominated by tourism. Or, as I looked up a few other countries, like Iceland, they made a shift from banking to tourism. Norway made a shift from oil to nature, Costa Rica to ecotourism and such. So we're looking at a structural transformation here in the kingdom, and that's something we're going to talk about. So to start with, I'd like to ask each of you to please introduce yourselves and your company and a little bit about what you do. Dr. Hamad?
First of all, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Hamad Abuhaimed. I was specialized in microinvasive aesthetic dentistry, and also I have some management. I work in Shatha company, which is specialized in general healthcare, and also wellness worldwide for the programs of wellness and prevention and longevity also at the same time.
And the name of your company is?
It's a Shatha company, yes.
Shatha company, great. Rosanna?
Hello, hi Susie. So I'm Rosanna Chopra. I'm the Executive Director of Destination Development for Red Sea Global. And so I look at how people will live and stay and experience our destinations. And obviously the primary ones are Red Sea and Amala.
Great, and you've been doing that for just a few years, right?
Yeah, so I've joined the company 2 years ago, but I've been working in the tourism sector in Saudi for about 5, nearly 6 years, and moved here with my family, just in that COVID bridge.
Fantastic. Ingo?
My name is Ingo Schweder. I'm the CEO of GOCO Hospitality. That's an umbrella company which has several companies below. One is Howard Health and Wellness. This is a research financial feasibility company. We own, with Jack Ma, a fitness company called Space in China, having 15 outlets there. We recently purchased 2 hotels, and they're going to be managed under 5 elements, Bali and Samui. And then we own in the United States the biggest hot spring resort called Glen Ivy. Here in Saudi Arabia, we first joined here in 2017, Amala. We were actually the first consultant which was at that time hired by Nick Naples. And we developed a master plan for the 90-hectare core. And since then, we have worked for Red Sea, but then also subsequently, right now, a lot for NEOM.
Well, Ingo and I know each other for many years, and I'm quite impressed of his global knowledge and the fact that he's worked on over 400 projects. So we have an expert here. Well, all of you are experts. So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask this particular question to each of you. And I'm wondering if we can start with you, Dr. Hamad. What has been accomplished thus far in the kingdom to encourage a shift towards wellness?
Well, thank you very much. Actually, to address the subject very well, we should talk firstly about wellness, which has been defined by the Global Wellness Institute as the active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to a state of holistic health.
I'm amazed that you
Yes.
have memorized that, but thank you very much.
So anything that affects your health positively can be considered as a wellness. Due to that, wellness is composed of 6 dimensions. As you know, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, and so on. And when we dive deep to the transformation of Saudi Arabia, And when we look especially for the Vision 2030 and each programs and initiatives of the vision, we can relate each programs and initiatives to the wellness dimensions. So for the example, when we look at the environmental dimension, we can see the green, the Saudi Green Initiative, the Riyadh Green Initiative, and the King Salman Park, of course, and Al Uruba Park. When we go to the social dimension of wellness, we can first mention His Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman non-profit city and the quality of life program in Saudi Arabia, which is a very fantastic program for the living people. And when we go to the physical dimension, we can also mention the Boulevard program and the regular sports events and so on. Also, when we go to the emotional, when we go to the mental, and when we go to the social, this is all shifting to the wellness, and this all affects how is the wellness in the country and of the living people in the Saudi Arabia.
I am impressed with the fact that there's so much progress already on the Vision 2030.
Indeed.
And wellness can be seen in all aspects of that.
Of course.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Rosanna, tell us.
Yeah, so I think as an extension of that, it's defined under the quality of life. And I think quality of life sort of encapsulates everything, because the wellness industry is whatever it is, 4 trillion plus. And as it's grown, it's become multi-segmental. So you have personal care, you have fitness, you have holistic, you have multi-generational, but you also have real estate wellness. It's very, very, very diverse, and longevity and this yearning for longevity has driven it. And so I think when you look at how it's become this multi-segmented space, and we are building for a future generation, very, very young population here. They're stimulating it. They've made wellness something that isn't necessarily a luxury. It's a necessity in their lives. It's not something they feel they need to compete with each other over. It's something that they want in themselves, and that comes from quite a spiritual core. And then when I look at the projects that we have, and although Amala is very much positioned as a wellness destination, it's art and culture, it's nature. And so it has attracted some of the leading brands. But even at Red Sea, and arguably every project that we have in our portfolio, I've seen an increased movement of the hotel operators seeking other ways of including wellness, because as Hamad said, it's not just simply categorized or find your pigeonhole and where you fit. Sometimes it's, I want to climb a mountain and reach a peak that I didn't know I could, because people are also trying to push themselves, stretch themselves, and have a sense of, I've achieved that. And so it's much in the same way as adventure tourism became something more than just hard and soft, and it's now capturing culture and heritage and art and all of the interventions that you want as you travel. Wellness is doing a very similar thing. It's no longer something that just comfortably sits in a box that's understood. Rather, investors, hotel operators, and multi-segment operators have identified that it can be taken a long way, and we're on the absolute front foot of all that opportunity in Saudi.
So you've seen quite a bit of movement already into wellness here in the kingdom.
Significant. And I think even some of the biggest hotel brands that would have always been synonymous with wellness are actually seeking and have found opportunities to define new USPs.
Push it a little bit more.
Push it more.
Further, yeah.
Because we have these incredible landscapes, because wellness now is so aligned with nature and sustainability, whether it's a conscious decision or a subconscious decision. Wellness is enhanced immeasurably when you're in a place of outstanding natural beauty. And that is not something Saudi has a shortage of.
You said something, I'm going to come back to it later, about the spiritual interest of young people. So we're going to come back to that. But Ingo, and maybe pull your mic just a little bit closer so we can hear you well. Tell us, because you've been working in this arena for quite decades maybe?
Yeah, 8
so
years.
What are you seeing where has the progress been?
I see, of course, the big developments, Neom, Red Sea, Amala, Yeragate, and so forth and so forth. I think they're very impressive, but they will, to a large extent, attract the wider GCC market as well as the domestic market. What I see in our work with MISC, the Morbid Salem Foundation, what we see there is we're developing right now the strategy for the country to bring wellness to a more accessible demography. There is quite a few medical challenges right now in this part of the world, obesity, cardiovascular diseases and related. And it's the right thing to do, and I find this very recommendable, and I admire what the country does there, that they're really looking at a strategy for everybody. So we are in the process of building the, to defining the first accessible wellness center in the city of Riyadh here. It's the first one. The foundation will build this and operate this. My company, together with 2 academics, are defining all the details there right now. My architectural team is defining the parameters of how this gets developed. And I think the idea is really to develop many accessible wellness for everybody kind of modalities there, where at a lower price point in more humble environments than Amla or Red Sea, everybody can partake in certain wellness regimes, learn about them, get educated in them, and things like this. So I think this is wonderful. I think it goes back to what happened in Europe in the 1900s. And I think they're developing this here to the next level, and I think this is fantastic.
I think that is very visionary, and I can say it's not something we hear about outside of Saudi, and maybe it's new here since you're helping develop the strategy. But to put emphasis on the domestic market, the youth, and making wellness accessible, you know, that's really, you know, Ingo taught me something, what was it, 20 years ago or so, when you were with Mandarin Oriental. And one thing that he did when he was there is he required all of the executives, as I remember, to do yoga. Wasn't it yoga?
Yoga and meditation and eating vegetarian healthy food.
So that, and this is the top level of the executives, and that was really cutting edge, but it made a huge difference because all of the people internally started understanding what it was about. So to think that Saudi is also putting focus on their people, that is going to make a huge difference down the road. It's not immediate, but it's a huge difference. So. Very exciting, and I'm glad that you're doing that because you are a visionary. If I were to ask people in Saudi what wellness is, do you think that they would know what wellness is? Do they use the term at all, just your regular people here that live in Saudi?
Yes, this is very interesting. Actually, I do think so. And I just want to continue. You know, Saudi Arabia was ranked at number 34 in wellness economy, and I think this number will change definitely in the short upcoming years due to many reasons, as what we mentioned for the programs of Vision 2030. And actually, I will add three reasons. First one is the solid economy of Saudi Arabia. As you know, Saudi Arabia is the largest economy in the Arab world with 1.1 trillion in 2022. The second thing is the uniqueness of its geography as it's considered in the middle of the world. And the third thing, the population structure of Saudi Arabia. So we reach 32 million and 63% are under 30 years. And all this can show how the country is dynamic and moving to the very high level of dynamicity. And when we think about the population of Saudi Arabia and how they understand wellness, I do think so, yes, they understand wellness very well. But I think there is also a misunderstanding of wellness, as when we say wellness, it's become to meditation, to spiritual, to physical activity. But as we first start this session, wellness is anything affecting your health positively. Even emotions, positive emotions can be considered as a wellness. I do think, yes, people in Saudi Arabia, they know what is wellness and they were really toward wellness.
Well, as I know from the rest of the world, it takes a little while. You know, actually, 15 years ago, we didn't even use the term wellness. We talked about spa, maybe a little bit about prevention. Medical was what a lot of people were talking about, the word health. But wellness, that's more recent, and it takes a bit of time. But once it, people begin realizing it can be a variety of things, it's a very good word to have as an umbrella for a lot of things. So I'm glad to hear that it's starting here. And what about you, Rosanna? Are you finding that there's a learning curve here
It's
for
interesting
wellness?
because I do think it was something that was slow, but arguably Saudi has one of the fastest accelerators, and that's women. So the female population, it wasn't accessible to them. And so to the point in the ranking, I think we will shift significantly because there's so many industry sectors that are being motivated and mobilized by the female population, so that's one element of it. There's a female driver, and then sort of taking the word accessible and then using it for accessibility. It's a very big initiative and drive that we've adopted at Red Sea Global. And so when we look at every element of our supply chain, every part of the architectural design, right through to operations, you see that there are similarities in the creation, the design of spaces, whether it's for someone with special needs or someone who just wants to be in a beautiful environment. That has struck a chord. But probably the most overwhelming response that we've had is the amount of hand raisers that are within our Saudi teams. It's so in them to not only look after themselves, but to be very selfless about looking after others. So now that the marketplace is offering opportunity for them to take more care of their own well-being, they now have a better balance of just willingness to look after others before themselves. And it's sort of this selfish selflessness that's emerged.
Well, I think it's terrific that you can start sort of fresh with the idea that already your companies themselves are talking about wellness, your citizens are talking about wellness, so that it isn't just something you offer to the tourist. So I think that's quite fascinating.
Yeah. And if I can just add on that, actually, because it's something else Hamad said, is that because of the Saudi Green Initiative, because of all of the investment and the protection of the environment, people are being encouraged to nurture. And again, it's this quid pro quo relationship. If you nurture something, you are reminded that you also need to nurture yourself. So all of the construction, all of the building, all of the extraordinary is actually reminding people about what is their place in the planet in a part of all of this huge growth.
Well said, well said. Ingo.
I think the next movement and the next progression will be the inculcation of the knowledge of how to develop wellness regimes, wellness facilities, wellness communities, wellness resorts, retirement communities. This needs to be inculcated into the fabric of the professionals here in the country. Right now, it is the right thing to do, hire the world's best, bring them together, let them develop, let them demonstrate best practices. This should go for another 5-10 years because it needs to be deeply inculcated into the roots of the community, of the individuals, the developers, the teachers, the educators, and so on and so forth. And then at some point, there needs to be more and more Saudi nationals who then get trained under those respective regimes in order for the country to carry it itself. The country cannot depend or continuously depend for the next 20, 30 years only on foreigners providing that. That needs to happen within the country. I see many best practices, they get followed. I see some where that is not so followed, but I think this will all work itself out. And I believe if we really go 10, 15 years from now, as Dr. Hamad said, this will be a substantial economy because there's so much in wellness which gets developed. Actually, sometimes I'm asking myself, is there a bit too much? Because when there's the amount of wellness facilities here are disproportionate to even Central Europe where there are more roots of that. So it is, partly I'm asking myself, but I think this will all work itself out because the dynamics of the market will take it.
Well, it certainly is resonating around the world. I would say that it's having a lot of impact. Speaking of specifics here in Saudi, I have a question to the medical professional here. I know you're in the medical arena, pharmacy, and so on. And one of the things that we have learned about in wellness is that, for example, India has Ayurveda, or China has traditional Chinese medicine. And the question here is, what about in this part of the world? And one thing that I've read about is what I have heard is called TAME, Traditional Arabic and Islamic Medicine. And I'm wondering if that is something that you think maybe is, I don't know, tell me about it from your perspective. I've only read about it, and very few people know about it from my perspective.
So yes, this is what we call it, the alternative medicine, and which they use the herbals. I believe it's all the same, but some people they believe in it, but the majority know they believe in the conventional medicine. We do have it, science Prophet Muhammad, and we do have lots of they call it the herbal mixes and so on. But the usage of it, it's not that much as it is in India or as it is in China.
What do you think, Rosanna? Do you think there's, and I don't even know if the term TAME, T-A-I-M, that acronym is something that, you know, what are you seeing or learning about the indigenous part of what's happening here in terms of health and wellness?
It's a very interesting question, and not one that I would be anywhere near as qualified to answer as Hamad. But what I can tell you is that when we work with, obviously a very, very big part of Red Sea Global is regenerative, and so there is a huge commitment to the environment, but there's an equal socio-economic and community commitment that we've made. And we have a number of people on my team who are from the local indigenous Bedouin family, from Umluj or from Al-Waj. And if you drive around with them, they will point out plants everywhere. And they have survived with great health, great prosperity, very optimistic future for longevity on what the land has provided for them. And so I do think that there will be an opportunity for an emergence for it. We know that there are a group of Chinese tourists who come here annually to buy their moringa or to buy a particular type of honey because it served their family so well for so long. So I do think that there is an opportunity for this to emerge, and I hope that many of us encourage that to continue because it has become such a hallmark, as you say, of India.
It will be, because it will be a reason for people to come here.
100%.
Because it's something they can't find anywhere else. It's interesting just being educated about it, maybe having a taste of it, some of the special herbs and, all of nature, and just learning about the history of it. So I'll be anxious to see if that develops, and I'm really hopeful it is. Because we don't have too much time, I wanted to bring up the topic of sports, because I know sports is a big topic here also. And one of the trends that we've talked about is the combination of sports and wellness, because recovery is becoming more part of wellness. And do you have any creative ideas, any of you, on how maybe sports and wellness can grow here together in a maybe unique way?
Actually, the physical dimension of wellness is a very big in Saudi Arabia. And as you know, the economy of wellness in Saudi Arabia in 2022 is around 20 billion. And I think this economy will grow dramatically in the upshorting years. And it will be led by the physical activities and also the personal care and beauty wellness. Also, the wellness tourism, especially with the hotels and with the centers that have been open. And yes, sports, the government is mentioning a lot, and they are very interested on it. But also there is another sectors of wellness that will grow up the economy of Saudi Arabia in wellness.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. Ingo or Rosanna, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, sports is a very big part of what we do. I think what's been interesting about, if I take tennis, for example, quite a high barrier to entry. You've really got to commit to that and develop a certain set of skills. But what's evolved over the years is you now have pickleball, you have paddle tennis. So actually what the kingdom is embracing is all of the other iterations of certain types of sport that are making it much more accessible for a much wider group of people. And I think what that's done is also highlighted the importance of wellness for the youth, and educating the young and giving them as many opportunities and platforms and awareness as possible. And so if we go back to the Vision 2030 and quality of life, which captures sport, but it captures entertainment, we are being encouraged to celebrate joy and bring joy, and through music and dance. And I think there's so many ways that, again, much in the same way as we do with building and architecture and design, we have a blank canvas. Equally we do, but again, it is absolutely motivated by the youth of the kingdom, but also the female and the female opportunity that now
I can
exists.
imagine that youth, would be very attractive to the sports. And so last word from you, Ingo. You are very creative and very visionary. Give us a good idea, maybe a new idea, on how sports and wellness can come together here in the kingdom.
I like to talk about a best practice in an Arabian country, but outside the GCC, if I may. One should always look around the world to see what are the best practices. For another royal family, but outside the GCC, we are creating right now an entire rehab sports education center. And not far away, but on the same larger land plot, we're creating a wellness center and wellness residences. It's done for a very forward-thinking head of state. I believe that sports and fitness are very much connected to what happens in the wellness space. I think they can connect and support each other from a nutrition standpoint, from many recreation, cultural, and other amenities which get created there. So while right now the facilities which are created in the GIGA projects are a combination within one facility of sports and wellness, I believe a dedicated facility for athletes and becoming athletes is very important in order to create more youth which then can grow into this.
And you mentioned that there's residences there too,
Yes,
which is
there are
another
residences
trend.
too.
People want to live somewhere where there is sports and wellness. Well, I ask you to please thank my panel, Hamad, Rosanna, and Ingo. And this is a lot. We could have a really great conversation planning the entire Saudi future of wellness right here if we just had a little bit more time. So join me in thanking them.
Thank you, Susie.